Hi guys, welcome to your very first flipped classroom. Just as a reminder, you should have a half sheet in front of you to take notes on titled Flipped Classroom Civilizations Emerge, just like this PowerPoint. Alright, so here's what we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking about page 68 in your textbook if you want to bust that out and follow along with us. In addition, I'm going to be introducing a map activity that you're going to be working on Friday and referencing that. It's incredibly important that you do your flipped classrooms before you lectures before you come into class on Friday or anytime we have a flipped classroom because you're not going to be able to understand the assignment if you haven't done this video. Okie dokie. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Oh, also, you'll notice that page 68 in your textbook is actually the end of chapter 3. That is all right, okay? We need to understand how civilizations emerge before we can really have a conversation about Mesopotamia and our first civilization we're going to talk about. So first, we're going to start out looking at 4 civilizations. We're going to be studying all 4 in depth in this class, and we're going to be looking at some similarities and really what it takes to have a civilization. Okie dokie? All right, so let's get started. The more complex cultures are called civilizations, and they begin to develop during the late Neolithic age. So this particular map is from 3000 BC. This is around when Otzi was alive, remembering back to that, right at the beginning of our when civilizations are coming about, but towards the end of the Neolithic age. They've been farming, and we're at the end of the agricultural revolution. People are really starting to understand farming and how to grow crops and domesticate plants and animals, and therefore they're able to start developing and having more progress living all together. So study this map for just a minute. What do all the civilizations shown here have in common? All right, can you figure that out? Let's see if we can look together. There's 4 civilizations that develop throughout the world during 3000 BC. And they all pop up along river valleys, okay? First one that we're going to study happens in Mesopotamia. The first one is Mesopotamia and along the Tigris and the Euphrates River. We're also going to study the Egyptian ancient civilization along the Nile River. We'll be talking about the Indus Valley civilization, which is in India, which is where we get the name for India, which is along the Indus River. And in China, the Chinese civilizations come about along the Honghe River, which is Chinese for the Yellow River. Okay. Mesopotamia specifically, so that first one I showed you, is named Mesopotamia. It actually means the cradle of civilization. Here is an image of where Mesopotamia would be. Let me circle it with my mouse here for you. It's what we would now call present-day Iraq and Southwest Asia, right here. You've probably heard some of these names before: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, even Jerusalem and Israel are all relatively in this area. This is the oldest civilization that we have, all right? One of your questions on your handout asks you to talk about this satellite picture. What do you think the satellite picture shows about Southwest Asia? Well, it is called Mesopotamia. It's called the cradle of civilization for several different reasons. Let me read to you a little bit about this image. It's in the area around the Tigris and Euphrates River, which are going to be over here. All right, the area is known as the Fertile Crescent. Okay, it's in the shape of a crescent moon. So I don't know if you can see that or not. And the earth is in this region, it's very dry, all right? Civilizations develop here because of the 2 great rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. and the fact that they provide natural resources needed to sustain life. We're going to come back to that term, natural resources. Over time, people in the Fertile Crescent, they learn how to harness the power of the rivers. Rivers are incredibly powerful. You know that. You've studied dams harnessing power. You know that large boats can traverse and go along on ships, or ships can go along on the rivers. All right. So what is a natural resource? In our case, we're talking about rivers, right? We're talking about water for crops and people. We're talking about the fertile soil that the rivers help produce, and we're talking about the fish that are in those rivers. We're not talking about washing our clothes or washing our hair, bathing or anything like that. That's not a resource. It's the water itself is a resource, and what we use it for, the soil that the fertile soil that the water will put down on the crops for us, and the fish also. A natural resource could also be trees that occur naturally. It could also be minerals, rocks, gold, diamonds, that kind of stuff, okay? Something naturally occurring that you and I can use, or in this case, our ancient people. How come it's called the cradle of civilization? What do you think it means, rather, to be the cradle of civilization? Think about the idea that about a civilization growing up. What does it need to grow up, to develop, to become larger? So think about that. Make sure you fill that in your notes. So let's talk about Mesopotamia. Because much of the Fertile Crescent is a desert, the people who live there depend on irrigation to raise their crops. All right, so we already talked about the fact that the region is very, very dry. Mesopotamia uses dug ditches, all right, in order to water their crops. They're able to pull back portions of earth, let the water flow, and then push that back in to stop the water so that they don't flood their own crops. All right. I love this image here on the right hand side, how it shows the deep ditches that are there, and then they're able to let the crops are mounded so they don't get washed away, but they also have access to the water. This is going to be a really, really key innovation, key technology that is going to be used throughout the ancient cultures, this irrigation, okay? Early civilizations develop in the river valley because of the available natural resources, the water. By the beginning of the Bronze Age, and you can look into your timeline in your textbook, 3000 BCE, 4 great river civilizations have emerged with similar characteristics. We already talked about those 4. That was number 1. Let's talk a little bit about the map that you're going to see on Friday when you come into class, okay? This is a little review here. When you come in on Friday, your homework that you're going to do in class, say you're doing the lecture right now at home that you'd normally do at class, but when you come into class, you're going to do the homework that maybe you'd normally do at home, but you get to do it in class. Ha, see, flipped classroom. Okay. You're going to work with somebody to help you answer questions using your map. You don't necessarily need to look at this very much now. You'll get your own map and you'll get some questions to answer as well. Okay. This is what your map's going to look like. You're going to have the chance to color it and use it and help answer some questions, but I want to walk through some key ideas first. First off, we've talked about this word source when talking about primary and secondary sources. If you remember or you look in your textbook, we define source as where things come from. In this case, we're talking about water. So the source of a river is where the water comes from, okay? I have some arrows here. So this is the Tigris and Euphrates that we're talking about first. If you look north of the Tigris and Euphrates, you'll see these are actually mountain ranges where these arrows are pointing, which is where the fresh water comes from that flows down into the Persian Gulf. Another thing I want you to notice is that we have Mesopotamia located at 40 degrees north and 40 degrees east. On your handout, it asks you about the latitude lines of the 4 civilizations. Which 2 are they in between? I have them highlighted here. So our latitude lines would be this one here and 20 degrees north. You'll notice also that if you look at another map of the United States, where we live is right in between. The United States is actually right in between 40 degrees north and 20 degrees north latitude. All right, so the climate, the temperament is going to be really similar in all four of these civilizations. All right, hopefully it makes clear to you the fact that the weather does obviously impact what the if they're able to grow crops, or else why aren't they farther north or farther south? Okay, let's see. The mouth of the river is where it flows into. So if the source is up for Mesopotamia's Tigris and Euphrates River is up here in the north, the mouth then is where does the water dump out of? Where does the water come out? Okay. For Mesopotamia, it's at the Persian Gulf. Okay, it's where it flows into a larger body of water. Okay, so let's look specifically at Mesopotamia and our people there, the Sumerians, okay? You'll notice the shape of the shaded region, which is referred to as the Fertile Crescent. Doesn't it kind of look like it's in the shape of a croissant or a crescent roll, kind of that half moon shape here? That's where we get the name from, all right? Sumer is our first people group that live here, that work the soil, work the land, and have enough where they can actually create a civilization, all right? And they are down here at the mouth of the Tigris and the Euphrates. Notice that the two rivers come together before they empty into the Persian Gulf, all right? So this is where our Sumerians live. We even have some cities labeled in Mesopotamia, all right? We have Susa, we have Uruk, Babylon. Does Babylon sound familiar? Nineveh, and then over here in the western side, we have Jerusalem, just to name some of them, okay? All right, so that's that for Mesopotamia and the maps. Here's what I need for you to do next. Go ahead and after the video ends, this video for you, this flipped classroom lecture, I want you to get out of this video, go back to Edmodo, and there is a Brain Pop video waiting for you as well. I need you, it's a 4-minute video about the Sumerians, who are our first people who live in Mesopotamia. I need you to watch that 4-minute video, and on the back of that handout that I gave you that you're writing on right now, the back of this, I want you to go ahead and write me 3 facts that you learn about the Sumerians. Try to get something about the writing, try to get something about the religion, try to get something about daily ways of life, all right? 3 full sentences that are facts about the Sumerians on the back of this page, alrighty? Again, you're going to get out of this video, you're going to go back to Edmodo, and you're going to watch that Brain Pop video that's embedded in there for me. And it's all about the Sumerians. I hope you enjoyed your very first flipped classroom. I'll be asking you about it. Actually, I will be asking you about it, but if you wouldn't mind adding a comment or replying to this post and letting me know just what do you think, that would be fantastic. See you on Friday.